Hello, I'm Graham. Welcome to TaxShredder podcast, where you turn chaos into millions. Considering a UK travel franchise, but concerned it might not deliver the supported earnings you expect? In the next 5 minutes, I'm sharing a framework to evaluate franchise opportunities in the UK travel sector, drawing from public reviews and forums. All info is based on available sources, and individual results can differ. Remember, do your own research to avoid potential pitfalls like reported low earnings or oversaturation. Now stick around and don't forget to like and subscribe for more no BS financial insights. Now let's dive right in. Here's how to spot a real deal. Presenting the real deal test, a 3-point checklist tailored to franchising. So the real deal test will help you identify if the franchise, in this case, or business in general that you're looking at, but we're looking at franchises today, is the one for you, or is something you should explore further, or is something that you should be cautious about and maybe think a couple of times before entering it. Now, I know, and I've been there before, maybe you're desperate to start a new business. And the problem is, once we are sold into something, irrespective of what anybody else tells us, you will find a way to justify a decision. And after we make the decision, the final commitment, we'll spend more money in justifying the decision, irrespective of what the facts actually show us on the ground, if we actually look at it. And that's the worst place to be. And I've been there. So, and certain circumstances can drive us to such irrational and bad decisions because of circumstances in our lives, and we develop a kind of obsession with a decision irrespective of the facts. It's a very difficult thing to overcome. But in this simpler analysis that you can adapt to your own specific circumstances, we're trying to give you tools to help you take a rational, objective view of the franchise or the business opportunity before you. And the 3-point checklist. And we can become as sophisticated, as simple as you like, but we will not try to become too sophisticated, because that's for individual consultations. But it in itself is something you can use in your business analysis to make business decisions. Now, this is more applicable to smaller businesses, like say businesses up to 5 million, 8 million, 500,000, 100,000, 50,000, 20,000, 10,000, where the business opportunity is not a conglomerate, international businesses, but the general business principle remain the same. Obviously, the smaller the business is, and the more simplified the structure, the easier it is to apply these principles. Today, we're trying to apply it to franchises, and particularly travel franchises. But let's go through the 3-point checklist, and we'll try to apply it to a travel franchise in a way that I can speak to from my own personal experience. First of all, is the clarity of the model. Now, I'm reading part of this because it's a lot to remember, and I don't want to be like a robot. So I'm going to read and then expand on it as we go along. Can you explain the structure of in one sentence? So this is what you call a helicopter view. If I ask you what this business is about, can you give it to me in one simple sentence? What this business is about, or do you have to go into long-winded paragraphs that are vague? So let's read this part again, and it's very important. The clarity of the model. Can you explain the structure in one sentence? A strong franchise has a clear setup where the franchisor handles branding, marketing, and system-wide goodwill, while you focus on local operations. Be cautious if reports suggest the model lacks geographical exclusivity, potentially allowing other franchisees to compete in your area, or if it's mainly access to suppliers without full branding rights. Now, this is important because the traditional view of franchising is that of geographical exclusivity. But there's so many different franchising models out there that many of them increasingly are taking shortcuts and are not offering you geographical exclusivity. And we'll get into why that really, really matters a lot. And also, we also mentioned here, handles branding, marketing, and system-wide goodwill. Now, this is extremely important. If you consider operations like McDonald's, KFC, they handle these things. A main part of their budget is having international, regional branding while they help you to build your market locally from a local perspective. But so many franchise brands out there go past this. They just give you a system. There's no real branding. You think there is, but there's not really any effective branding to really support you. And a franchise that doesn't help you branding is really not worth the money. I mean, yes, want to be able to succeed because they'd always succeed at anything they do, or they have such history and network in that area already, or they just they can't people who win the lottery, but most people will fail or struggle. So we have this, and we have exclusivity, geographical exclusivity. The second point is cost versus value. Are upfront costs like franchise fees and royalties justified by the franchise's proven tools, training, and shared brand strength? Watch out for models where some users report high ongoing fees but minimal support, such as limited marketing or low commissions, leading to modest take-home pay despite sales. And the trial franchising model is something that looks glamorous on the outside, but when you dig down in some of the models, you find that the commissions are quite low, and that the branding itself, some structures can be quite complex, and you think because the marketing to you was intense and was intense and everywhere to get you on as a franchise, that it will be it will be equally as good to the consumer market. But taking such things for granted is quite a big mistake. Do not assume that. Some franchise models are so clever. Remember, franchises are there to make money. They're a business. And in any business situation, they're there to get more value from you than you give to them. Otherwise, they'll be a charity and it wouldn't be about making profits. Profits are, I give more value to you than you give to me, so I make a profit, I have net cash flow, I become wealthy. The other way around means they're losing money. Okay? So just remember that. There's no such thing as a free lunch. It never happens. Not in business. Not intentionally in business. And franchises are there to pass the risk onto the franchisee. The franchisor passes the risk of failure to the franchisee. The franchisee bears the risk of failure. So therefore, you better ensure that you're getting a really good product in every way. And that includes, crucially, branding to the consumer market. Not just branding to you, because in some models, there is a great suspicion that their real business model is getting people on board as franchises, and the franchises, once a contract is signed, the money is paid, that's it. They've done their job, they've made their money. So be careful about that. So, are upfront costs like franchise fees and royalties justified by the franchise? So the second one we come to is cost and value. The first one we did was clarity of model. The second we're doing is cost versus value. Are the upfront costs like franchise fees and royalties justified by the franchisor's proven models? Training, shared brand strength. Watch out for models where some users report high ongoing fees but minimal support, such as limited marketing or low commissions, leading to modest take-home pay despite sales. Okay, that's number two. So this is a question of who's giving more value. If you're giving more value, significant more value to them than they're giving to you, then it's not worth doing it. You must both give value to each other equally in different ways. And their value to you should be brand strength and marketing support to the consumer market, not through their active marketing to the consumer market. Not just giving you materials, or even selling you materials or putting you on a training course that makes you good at booking holidays for them on their system to ensure they get the money, rather than helping you to go out in the market and sell money and just tell you, oh, just network with your friends, pressure your friends to buy holidays from you. And that's a quick way to lose friends and get people to run away from you. And what happens when your network gets exhausted? The third point is proof of success. Are there verifiable stories from average franchises, not just the top 1%, or recent trainees showing sustainable profits? Look for data in the franchisee disclosure document, the FDD, and note if forums highlight issues like oversaturation, from no exclusivity, or challenges in achieving consistent earnings. For example, if reports indicate skimpy territorial protection and steep royalties without strong evidence of shared success, it could be a concern. Always verify independently. Now, this is very important, proof of success. So what they'll normally do, you say you're going to do your due diligence. You ask them to show me 3 franchises that are showing successful. Obviously, you'll find people who are sympathetic to them on a personal level, etc. Now, you must remember, people get franchises for different reasons, especially franchises under 30, 40,000. Some people may be happy to generate part-time income from it. Some people may just want, get their spouse to stop bothering them while they work, and go ahead and do something, chat with your friends about it, knock yourself out. Maybe we get some cheap holidays here, there, your holiday deals. Something, or if you're retired, you got nothing to do with your time, got some spare cash, you get holidays out of it, make some part. It's a question of what your expectations are. If you're there for full-time income, as opposed to your neighbor down the road who's there for part-time income, or the person in the other county who's there as a retiree, then you have to look at it from in different eyes. What's good for a retiree is not good for you in your 40s. Trying to break it for your job and achieve financial freedom. And it's not the same for the person just wanting something part-time in addition to their job, or someone just wanting their spouse to get out of their hair while they focus on their business. So it's a question of your circumstances and your expectations. And in terms of geographic territorial exclusivity, this is so important. I know we'll talk about it later, and in fact, let's talk about now. We talk about a simple test to analyze any opportunity. So, okay, let's go from my personal experience, and I will say it. I won't go into too much detail, and I'll say the name of the company because I was very dissatisfied in the end, and other people may say they're satisfied, but from my experience, I was not. Now, my history is that I have been, full-time businessman. I took a break from business, and I achieved a lot in business, and I took too long a break, and I found it a bit difficult to come back. I wasn't quite sure what to do. So I thought I'd take a franchise, but before I did that, I had, helped a lot of people do different things, and my funds were a bit lower than I expected it to be when I came around to it. So normally, where I was quite adventurous before and would invest big and go that way, I decided to play it to hedge my best. You can't play safe, but you either do it or you don't, and that's the lesson I learned. If you're going to do a business, do it properly. Invest a proper amount. If you don't feel comfortable investing a proper amount, build it from scratch. Don't hedge, because what you get in the middle is not, 9 times out of 10, unless you're very lucky, it's not worth it. And so I looked around and I found this opportunity for a franchise. It's called a travel franchise called the travel franchise. And the problem was that I thought I knew everything, but I didn't understand the travel industry. I didn't understand the cost structures. All I saw was the glamour. And because I'm from the Caribbean, I said, well, it might be a great thing. And you just see the glamour. I never worked in the travel industry. I didn't understand the dynamics of it. I certainly didn't understand the dynamics of, the kind of money and who got what money and how it worked. And so I did not do the proper due diligence. And I just watched the videos. And I remember the first time I asked questions, people, became quite, shirty with me. And I thought it was my fault. I blamed myself. And I went back, I watched the videos, and, but the videos are constructed based on legal advice, excellent commercial law, marketing based on expert commercial law. They say everything perfectly so they can't be sued and, that they're covered. But once you sign the contract, you sign the contract. So I signed the contract. What did I find? Well, in the end, I left the franchise after a year because I was deeply unhappy with it, because it did not meet my expectations about full-time income. And the glamour was, there was no glamour at all. And certainly there was no, we got, let's go through it. All right, clarity one. The model was very opaque because they got you on board through the travel franchise. That was the marketing to the potential franchise. So you saw them everywhere. They were half in the list of HSB franchise models, and they look really wonderful, because they were a brand in the franchising world. So you assume because they were a brand in the franchising world that everybody would know that brand. Everybody, but that was a wrong assumption because I was looking at it through the McDonald's model. And when we got in, we realized that we were not a franchise of the travel franchise. We became a franchise of not just travel. So the travel franchise was the selling arm, not just travel was the franchise arm. And very few people ever heard of none. There was no branding there. Nobody ever heard of it. And basically, what we were personal travel consultants. And the question is, who needs a personal travel consultant now? People like to boast that you got cheap holidays online and, they did themselves and everything's automated and quick. But certainly you're a personal travel consultant. And the problem with that, that's fine. The problem with that, we found out that we weren't selling holidays any cheaper than anybody else. We go online and get a holiday call. And we will, in many cases, so the public could get same holidays we were selling, and the public could negotiate. And what do the public basically want? In 9 times out of 10, not 10 out of 10, but 80% of the time, just want cheap holidays. That's all they want. It may be better for them to get a nice package holiday, somewhere taking care of them, but what they want is a cheap holiday, right? And that's it, at the cheapest price. Any travel consultant cannot do that. Then to many people, well, there's really no point in the travel consultant. And many of the tour operators were competing against the whole people, the travel consultants who sell their holidays. And so consumers could access the same holidays the travel consultants could sell. There are a small minority of tour operators who sell only through travel consultants, but they were minority, distinct minority. So that was a problem. That was a big problem, and because that was a big problem, we only found out. Booking flights, you couldn't get a flight that was even competitive, far less cheaper than what is available to the general public. So you'd have to be lucky, and that's why I say sell to your friends, pressure your family. A nice way to lose friends and get people to run away from you. So I'm not saying, and also it was just a platform where different corporations put their product. So it's not like they were buying in bulk and it was just a platform. The training consisted of training to book stuff on the Hayes system. And if you go, you go and become an affiliate of a normal tour operator, they create a website within 2 minutes automatically. And anybody could go on your system and book it without any fuss, but you spend half an hour booking a holiday for somebody that just ensure that not just travel got the money before you did. That's my opinion. That's my experience, and that's what I believe to be true. So the clarity of the model was deceptive. The commissions were much lower. I know, you got the cost versus value. So I know one individual, and when I started complaining about it, she said to me she sold £35,000 of, and she was an experienced, travel agent in 1 month, and only to come out £800 before tax after commissions were taken out in that month. So you sell £35,000, you get £800 in your pocket before tax. Work out the figures, and the problem was that when we're being sold the thing, we'll be told what the sales are, not what the commissions might be. Yes, you can work it out, but when the brain is thinking those large numbers, human beings being human beings, they tend not to work out the smaller numbers, which are the real numbers, which is commissions. So the model was very opaque, in my opinion. They operated through two companies. One recruits, one you become the agent on, and nobody knows about. And branding was virtually non-existent. I mean, nobody ever really heard of Not Just Travel. The problem with we talk about let's talk about going through forums and finding out the proof of success. So, as I said, 1% will always succeed. No matter what, because they're history in the travel agency, because they're just naturally gifted in that area, or because they're the kind of people who win the lottery. But in the main, that's what you have to look at. And you never look at the people they send you to speak to. You have to do your due diligence. And what I found, not just with them, but with other business that I've dealt with in the past, I wouldn't judge anything by Trustpilot, anything at all. Because the way it happened to Trustpilot is that I don't know how Trustpilot do it, but when it comes to judging business opportunities, I have never been right in going by a 5-star rating on Trustpilot. I've never been right, because it's always disappointed, because I don't know how they do it. And I have an idea, because what happens, you get a training, and you have to fill out a form when the training ends. At the point in time, your expectations are high, the training seems great and wonderful. So you think you're going to make £10 million next month. So you all filled with the juice of joy, of positivity, and so you give them high marks. But the truth comes out when you go to online forums like X, i.e. Twitter, or Reddit, or places like that, where people give you the real inside track. And I can tell you, in the past, forums like Reddit have saved me a lot of money and helped me get out of jams, because I wouldn't go to Trustpilot for something like that. I think Trustpilot is very deceptive, and I wouldn't touch it when evaluating a business decision. So now let's talk about the thing about geographical exclusivity. Right, so it started when I got the franchise. There were about 3 people I found in my area. By the time I left it, 1 year later, there were about 15, in the area. The problem with geographical franchising is that you can't really build an area. You're competing with people in your own area. It's difficult as it is to start. You don't have the branding. The people are not marketing for you. You have to do your own marketing. The margins are low, the commissions are low. You're doing it from home. The commission is so low, It's not, you don't have, it's just a no-brainer. Well, it's a non-starter for you to get a shop, get an office. The margins just will not accommodate it. So you have to work from home with 20 people down the road trying to sell holidays to people who want to go online and buy their own holidays. So the few that are available, you're competing with other people. And when you have non-exclusive geographical areas, the business model is a franchise will sell as many holidays, many franchises as they possibly can, and they don't really care if you sell it to your next door neighbor or the person living next door to you or the person in the same flat as you or the same house as you. It doesn't matter. You're just there to sell, 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 and irrespective of, and they always tell you, oh, the market is big enough. Well, when somebody tells you that, it's a big red flag, okay? So be careful of non-geographical franchises in the main run, because that's taking the shortcut. That's cutting corners, and not spend money on branding to consumer market. I mean, look at McDonald's. Every McDonald's you pass by, you assume is the same McDonald's, same company, same KFC, because they take ownership of the branding. You come to them and you expect, whether it's a new franchise, style franchise, they're going to invest a lot of income of marketing to that market. You want them to warm them up for you. You want them to know the name. And that's what you're paying your money for, not to be left alone and just given materials or buying materials with a system. There isn't a business model that will succeed without proper marketing unless you're extraordinarily lucky. And it does happen. I succeeded in business just through networking, but I was lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. But you have to be in the right place at the right time. Really have to hit that jackpot. Otherwise, marketing, without proper marketing, efficient, cost-effective marketing, you're nowhere. You will not succeed. And a franchise model without not focus on marketing to the people the franchisee wants to sell to, and who does not have exclusive geographical franchise areas, it's a big risk. You might as well, it's a better risk to go and buy a meme coin in crypto than to do that. And I learned to my cost. Now, what's the solution for that? So obviously, this did not work for me, and I left them. And needless to say, there was a lot of acrimony involved. But this is an objective view, and I use this experience and my previous experience and compared why did I succeed in one and why did this was just such a disaster. And as we went through, we saw the differences of psychologically and due diligence. And it doesn't matter if you're a finance professional, whatever, an entrepreneur, our brain makes us believe we know more than we actually know. And sometimes we need to step back, be a little bit humble, and listen to other people. Okay, what can we do? So here's some practical tips, not just for travel franchises, but for businesses in general. But we talk about travel franchises. Start with franchises that match your skill, like low overhead, home-based travel ones, but confirm territorial protections where relevant. Experiences differ. Thoroughly review the financial disclosure document for details on exclusivity and risk. Speak to multiple franchises about the franchise or branding, marketing effectiveness, commissions, and any competition issues. And search forums or X for diverse views beyond promotional material. Financial freedom franchises come from leveraging the model's structure, consistent operations plus franchisors' goodwill, not shortcuts. Be cautious of reported oversaturation without geographical exclusivity, as can lead to internal competition. Prioritize those with protected areas for sustainable growth. And note if staff are franchises themselves, which might raise questions. Always investigate. All right. So if they tell you and they portray it as a trend that their franchise is so good right, that even the employees are franchises. Ask yourself the question, if what they're selling is financial freedom and the ability to get away from the 9-to-5 job, why in the world, if I am a successful franchisor, would I become an employee again? Where am I going to find the time to do my franchising to achieve financial freedom? It's an oxymoron. It does not make sense. But many of these so-called legitimate franchises use this clever marketing to portray that the employees being franchises is actually a powerful endorsement of the model, when actually it's nothing of the sort, when you think of it properly. So I would strongly advise, where the majority of employees are portrayed, where it is portrayed as a strength that the majority of the employees are actual franchises, I would run, because they are selling financial freedom from the 9-to-5. Whereas in their organization, the people who have franchises do not have financial freedom. They have to work the 9-to-5. Yes, if one or two people high up in the organization have done so well that the organization has hired them, that's different than if your normal, office worker, person and customer support is a franchisee. How does that work? Where are they getting time to achieve financial freedom? And shouldn't they be out there achieving financial freedom for themselves rather than working 9-to-5? Saying that they love their job is not good enough. Okay, you love your job, but why do you have to be a franchisee? Just stay in your job. Why spend that money? It doesn't make any sense at all. It's completely contradictory. So I would run where they portray that the employees are franchises as a strength of the model. Okay, let's go on. And this is a question of borrowing, all right? So listen to this very carefully. Be cautious with borrowing. While it's extreme to say, never take on debt, some succeed with manageable business loans. If the model is proven and you've done your due diligence, only proceed if you can handle payments comfortably. Consult financial advisors to ensure affordability. And that says it all. Nothing wrong with taking on debt, but only take on debt to the point that if the model goes wrong, it will be annoying, it might be a bit inconvenient, but you can afford to repay what you've borrowed. There is no point to take on debt for a franchise when you do not know if you'll succeed. If things go wrong, that it fails. Now, some people take a gamble and it works out. But like with everything else, you only hear about the people who succeed. You never hear about the people who fail, or hardly ever. And you do not know the proportion of success to failure. And taking out loans for businesses, especially if this is your first business, your first franchise, yes, you may roll the dice and you may win, like in a casino. But in the main, I would strongly advise only take out loans that you could afford to pay back if things don't work out. And the wisest approach is to take out a loan when you know the business model is already working. And you can see what the margins are, you can see what the cash flow is, and you know, I can take out that loan because I know the model is already working. For example, since my break, as I told you, and I took a break trying to find out where to start back again, because, accountancy is fine and we do well, but I'm an entrepreneur and I'm looking for different business models. And I have access that I could take out 200,000 if I want. It's there for me. 300,000 is there for me. But I'm not going to do it. I'm only going to do it when I'm sure that the business model that I have is sustaining enough revenue to sustain the interest rate that can be that would attach to that loan that I can comfortably pay back because I have sufficient traction paying customers, not just friends saying, oh, that sounds good, not just people saying, oh, I'll buy it. No, the proof of a model is people actually buying it in sufficient quantities where you make sufficient profit that, and most importantly, sufficient cash flow on a regular, consistent basis. So yes, people take out loan and they get successful, but it's always a gamble. And you must be aware that businesses and risk go together. You have to take on board and internalize it, not because Joe Bloggs takes on a risk and is successful, that you will take on that same risk and be successful. And there are risks if you take on that loan and your business is not successful. Well, one thing for sure, you have to pay back that loan. Be aware of that. Okay. So to wrap up, use the real deal test. So we call the real deal test, right? It's about assessing opportunities, and we'll flesh that out in different industries that you may want to look at in the future or that I may look at. And the real deal test consists of clarity of the model, cost versus value, proof to evaluate franchises. Stay clear of risky ones like those without geographical exclusivity based on public reports. You go on X. X is a wonderful place to find out. You go on Reddit. I would stay away from Trustpilot. I would personally stay away from Trustpilot. But this is my opinion. I'm not your financial advisor. I'm not your business advisor. This is what I would do from my experience. Financial freedom through franchise is achievable with smart choices, a solid structure, and hard work, not empty promises or flawed models, right? This is general info. Seek professional advice. Don't go on my way. I'm just giving you my advice. So drop a comment with a franchise you're considering and I'll help you analyze it. Email taxshredder@taxshredder.co.uk for a free consultation. My link is in the description. Smash that like button, subscribe for more tips, and check out my latest video. Thank you. And goodbye for today.